Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of the CantinaMX podcast. I believe our 99th edition of the CantinaMX podcast. We're coming to you live, as we do every Thursday night at 9:30 p.m. Central, 7:30 out on the West Coast, and of course 10:30 on the East Coast. My name is John Jagu. Glad that you are with us tonight. We are live on YouTube, as we always are, and of course you can listen to this and previous editions of our podcast on the Podcast Center at iTunes, and of course on recently added, which I thought we were there the whole time, but it turns out we're not. But we are now back on Google Play, thanks to one of our loyal listeners who said, "Señores, and we need to be on the Google Play," so we're on the Google Play now. So glad that you were with us this evening. We do have quite a few things to get to this week. There's going to be a call-up coming up for some games at the end of the month. Crucial qualifiers for Mexico. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about a possible, maybe the early warning signs of a major power struggle that's going to happen over in the Pearl of the Occident. Of course, we're talking about Guadalajara, and we'll get into some of the little odds and ends as well here in the CantinaMX podcast. Things that have happened over the week and things that are going to happen, not just in Mexico, but in the world of soccer. And of course, we want to touch base on all of that as it happens. So thank you again for joining us. My name is John Jugo. Let's go ahead and introduce our panel that we have with us tonight. An expurgated version. It's like the abridged version of the CantinaMX podcast, but we do have still a panel of very knowledgeable, very intelligent, very humorous, witty members here on our panel. We're going to start going West Coast with Escondido with Daniel Preciado. Daniel, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, John. How's it going?
It's going well. My Pumas won, Daniel, so we have 6 points. And
how does that feel like?
To win? I don't know. I would ask Joel, but he doesn't know either. But it feels good. Pumas, they were able to beat the hottest team in the league, the Lobos BUAP, by a score of 2-0. It was a good win for Pumas, even though.
No, that's a great win. I mean, they've obviously started off their first division play on the right foot. So getting 3 points from them, I thought was strong. It
was, and for Pumas, unfortunately, we need to win on the wall. Listen to me, Pumas needs to win on the road. They haven't done that yet. As soon as that starts happening, then maybe I'll feel a little less nervous about.
Does it become more when they start winning?
No, not at all. I try not to do that when I talk about the teams that I am personally a fan of. But anyway, no. Pumas is very close to the situation that unfortunately I believe that your Santos are in. It's where they're starting to creep down toward a zone where things could get a little uncomfortable if there's a bad season. I'm talking about, of course, the Descenso. It's Santos losing at home to Veracruz. Just as bad a loss as you can have, and that's almost as bad as losing to Puebla.
There's few games that you think, all right, that's going to be 3 points right there.
Absolutely,
that's one of the few games you circle on the it's like, all right, you should be able to get 3 from them, but.
Yeah, no, it was a big loss. It was a big loss, and although didn't you tell me that that Chaton did he start?
He scored.
He scored.
Yes, I believe. No, I do think he started, but
is he Chaton with hair or is he bald Chaton? Because I think bald Chaton is where he plays his best.
He's bald.
He's bald. Well, there you go. So it sounds like maybe Chaton. I got to tell you, if there's a player that Santos needs and for a bigger picture that Mexico needs to start playing well, it's Chaton, because I think he could be an outstanding addition.
Well, he's been getting minutes at center back.
Really?
So
that's even more interesting. If he's going to that seems actually pretty reasonable.
So yeah, that is a little bit interesting from that, and that's about it though. I was hoping Ronaldo Cisneros would be getting more minutes with the first team, but that's not really happening yet.
Yeah.
He got some minutes during the Copa, which I guess if there's a bright side to this season so far, it's the Copa. So they're doing okay in that competition.
Well, they'll get it together. I mean, Chepo's a good coach, and Santos is, at least since the mid. I mean, they've had a couple of scares, but they're as I look at them as outside of the big four, who are usually somewhat consistent. I think Santos and Toluca have been far and away the most consistent teams over the past 20 years.
I'm pretty slow on the panic button. I'm pretty, if anything, I'm late on the panic button, so I'm not sweating it. It's still super early.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on that. But we're good to have you on the show. And just to the north of you, about I don't know, like 100 miles or so, we have with us in South Los Angeles, Joel Aceves, who is chomping at the bit to get to all the news from his favorite city in the world. But we'll get into that in a minute. But first, we'll say hello, Joel. How are you?
Hello, John. Glad to be back.
Well, we're glad to have you on, Joel. Joel, Chivas. Well, if we had a former member of the podcast, he would be laying it into you right now. But he's on a permanent vacation. Not a good look for Chivas over the weekend. Playing a team that, frankly, is looking pretty good in Monterrey. But Chivas had it rough, and of course, when you lose like that. The claws come out of certain people, and I think we're starting to see a little bit of that down in Guadalajara.
This was also the first time Chivas had lost to Monterrey since Almeida took over. Monterrey had always been sort of Chivas whipping boy. So
you can say it, Joel. Habían sido clientes.
That they were. It was, it was the venue where Chofis.
That's right, where Chofis became a superstar.
Yeah, that one game, and so this was, ironically now tables have turned, and now this was the venue where Chivas suffered their first defeat of the season, heavy-handed defeat, 4-1,
and the worst loss in the Almeida era.
Yeah, and so now they have a winless streak. 4 games, 3 draws, 1 defeat. So things aren't looking so good. I'm not surprised. I did say before the season that I wasn't expecting Chivas to qualify, given the lesiones and the lack of preseason, proper preseason.
So no big surprise to you. It shouldn't be a surprise to our loyal Chivas fans that are listening as well. But you're a learned man when it comes to Guadalajara soccer. Not everybody is as astute in your observations as other Chivas fans are. So, at what point does Almeida start feeling the pressure of just not just coaching Chivas, but coaching Chivas after bringing the Comet back? So
well, I have to note another thing that happened at the Monterrey game was that Almeida was suspended for 2 games.
He had some not some very nice words to say to the referee, and then I have to admit, Joel, he was. I think that he wouldn't have been suspended for 2 games, but he really took it out on that poor defenseless little bottle that he kicked on his way to the locker room, which frankly, I mean, the bottle was just minding its own business. It didn't need to be treated like that. So I think he got uno por las palabras y el segundo por la botella.
So the Chivas, the board of directors, they did not want to talk about the incident. They didn't want to talk about, the suspension. They said they weren't gonna, they were just gonna accept it. But Almeida did give, and I'm kind of came a bit unprepared, John. I should have had his quotes. But what was interesting, he said, if no one's gonna defend me, I'm gonna say my piece.
Right.
So Almeida went against, the board, and talked about talked about the suspension and everything, but that's what some of the media was zeroing in on, the whole if no one's gonna defend me part, because there was already rumors and going a while back that the relationship between Almeida and Higuera had broken.
Well, that's something that you'll have to get into a little bit in more detail. But before we do that, Joel, we do need to introduce our last but not least, our technical director, the man who pushes all the buttons to get us on the air. Talking about Beto Chiquiscampa out in Kyle, Texas. Beto, how are you?
Hey, what's up?
I'm assuming that means you're okay.
Yeah, doing good.
Glad to have you on. Glad to have you on, Beto. Beto, we Pumas had a good win. They played well. They kind of loosened up a little after they scored the goal, but they were able to withstand, and they got the second one to ice it, and we can breathe a little easier.
Yeah, I think I got all my predictions right from last show.
Wow!
I think it was the Pumas win, Monterrey win, and I think Pachuca over Tigres.
Look at you. El Chaman. See, we used to have El Chayan Chaman. Now we just have El Chaman.
Yeah, I was expecting that most to happen. I think Aviles Hurtado has been doing real well.
Well, I mean, it looks like they got the locker room straightened out in Monterrey. I mean, we've been talking for at least for the better part of a year how as far as talent, they few teams in the league can outgun them. It was just we were wondering was it the coach? Is it is there some sort of discord in the locker? And so they got rid of a couple of players. I mean, one guy who just seemed to be unhappy not only in Monterrey but where they shipped him off to in Carmona, and they were able to really put a whooping on Chivas. So I think that the people in at least the people that wear the stripes in Monterrey have to be very, very happy with how Monterrey has started off the season. I mean, I think that at least a month into it, you'd have to say that I know that Lobos WAP had their good little start, but I mean, let's be realistic. I don't necessarily think that that's something that they can maintain. Whereas I think that Monterrey can absolutely keep this going with the team they have, and then the folks that have been able to step up for them. But so good on them. We'll see how that turns out. But I do want to turn more toward. Oh, sorry about that, Joel. Fat finger. But so Joel, you said that the rumors are starting to fly in Guadalajara, and do you think that the rumors would have been flying whether they were winning, losing, or ambivalent? Just there's tension.
I think that they would have been there, but we wouldn't have hurt them. If you're winning, everything's sunshine. But they would have still been. The
deodorant of winning is not glossing over the fact that there is that they're having a conflict in the front office. So the conflict, it turns out, Joel, let me see if I can get this right. It is between the general manager, Mr. Riera, and the coach, Matias Almeida. Is that correct?
Yes, but technically he's not general manager.
Okay. Well, what is his
the CEO?
What is his official?
He's the Chivas OmniLife CEO.
Okay.
Technically, you should have nothing to do with the team.
So he's the CEO of OmniLife.
Decision-wise.
He's not.
Well, the Grupo Chivas OmniLife.
All right. So what does that make?
He's
Vergara?
like the business aspect of it. Vergara's the owner.
So Vergara's the owner of the club, or of?
He's the owner of the OmniLife Chivas, and he's the president.
Okay, so you have the president, and you have the CEO, and
Correct.
regardless of what his title is, I know that I get very technical when it comes to that. He's in the middle of a snit with Matias Almeida, and why are they mad at each other? Why are they not returning each other's phone calls?
But I think this happened. This is my take, and it's that the reason Higuera brought Almeida was simply because he wanted to get rid of the De La Torres, who weren't going to give him room to operate because he wanted to have more say in the club as far as transfers and how the team plays, and they were just not going to let him do it. So he got rid of them, and the way he got Almeida was because his representative, who is Santiago Huizig, he was in Mexico trying to get the national team. He was shopping around Almeida for the national team, and he ended up with Chivas.
What would you have done, Joel, if Chivas gets Osorio?
Oh no,
and
no!
Mexico gets Matias Almeida.
I don't know, man. You know what? He's not that bad of a coach. I would say Osorio is. Even if I don't like him for the national team, as club coach, he's quite decent. Going into the World Cup, I would take that deal, John.
Okay. All right. So Higuera was not getting the props. He wasn't getting he wasn't getting the toys. They said you can't play in the sandbox. So he got rid of the people in the sandbox. Brings in Higuera. Matias.
He brought in Higuera. Yeah, and if we go back, he had like a promising start when he won like 5 games.
Right.
And but then the start of the following season, he had a start that was just as bad as Chepo's. Actually, he had 1 point less than how when Chepo had gotten sacked. So around that time, Higuera was trying to bring in some other coach. So one of them was Buse, who that's why they brought in the former general manager, whose name I forgot. He was at Querétaro.
Oh, Jaime Ordiales.
Yes, correct. They brought in Jaime Ordiales, and that was the reason they brought him in, so that Buse could work with Ordiales. And then Buse said this. It's if you Google it, interview when he's talking about why he turned down coaching Chivas, and he said it was because he still blames Vergara for not getting a fair shot at the national team when he got fired after the Costa Rica game. So that was like strike one, you could say.
Sure.
And then later on, they went after the Argentine coach who went to Sevilla.
Sampaoli.
Yes, Jorge Sampaoli. And Sampaoli kind of threw them under the bus because he gave an interview and he said, I was offered the job, but I didn't want to take it because I'm good friends with Almeida. But I think he did it just to alert Almeida because he wasn't going to take it. They were going to have to dump a lot of money.
Right.
He had offers from Europe, and that's where he knew where he needed to be for his career to take off. And but soon after that, that's when they give Almeida this 5-year contract.
And then the magic starts happening.
Yeah, but even then, like you could say that Almeida's agent, he was working behind the scenes. So Almeida was being linked to New Worlds. He was being linked to Paraguay national team. He was
putting pressure on Chivas to get the contract. Is what was happening.
Yeah, and at the same time, Chivas started doing better and better. He started winning. He started adding titles, and the other thing was that he became a fan favorite. He's probably the most popular coach in Liga MX as far as the way the fans treat him. I really can't think of any other coach. Maybe Tuca at Monterrey, but I mean Tigres. But I really can't think of another coach that gets that.
Sure.
And with going to Tuca, I think he has that in Monterrey where Tigres are at, but outside he's probably not revered as much.
Right.
As opposed to, they put pictures all the time or videos when the team lands in the airport and Almeida gets mobbed. It's almost like if he was one of the star players.
You know what it reminds me? It reminds me of when I travel with you, and when we land and you walk out of the jetway and people start mobbing you.
Oh, an alternate universe.
Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. Okay, so let's fast forward to this weekend. So
no, not even this weekend.
We haven't gotten there yet. Okay, so we're still working on the backstory. Go ahead.
So yeah, so now Almeida, he's pretty much, he's won. He has a popular vote. Everyone in Chivas likes him, man, and even Vergara.
He has won the court of public opinion.
And Vergara, because we've never heard Vergara, praise a coach as much as he has, Almeida.
Okay, so what caused them? What caused the rift to get to the point that's so bad that they had to whip it out and get the rulers out?
Well, I think those were the two things that happened with Higuera starting to shop for
another coach,
for other coaches, and if we look at Higuera's track record, he's always he's had indifferences with past coaches that he hired, because he does have his other club.
What other club is that?
God damn! No, not that he's a fan of, that he owns. Colibríes.
Oh no, there you are. It's
now
Zacatepec. It was Coras de Tepic, right?
Oh, there you go. And now
but they have now moved to.
Exactly.
Honestly, like the, in my opinion, the most romantic club in Liga MX. The team that plays in Morelos, right outside of Cuernavaca, Zacatepec, which they play in a really cool stadium. And honestly, if I had a chance to go watch a Liga MX game, if I could go watch one in Zacatepec, that would be fantastic.
That would be.
It's a cool little town, cool little stadium, and it's like 45 minutes from Mexico City. It would be a great place to go watch. So and they beat Tigres in Copa MX. It was last week or the week before. I think they lost to Cruz Azul this week. Yeah, so
so he moved, huh?
Yeah, so they have a lot of Chivas players on. So you should keep an eye on Zacatepec. They have a lot of Chivas players on loan.
That was one of the first, because when Higuera first bought, God, you just told me the name. I already forgot.
Coras de Tepic.
When you bought Coras, not only did Chivas send players, they sent him a coaching staff, who was Joel Tiburón Sánchez and Gusano Nápoles. And
was Higuera involved when Camoranesi quit 5 minutes before their Copa MX game?
Well, that was the thing. Well, see, this is when we kind of have a window into how he operates, because Tiburón managed to get that team to the final, and they lose to Necaxa, and I believe they lost in penalties. So he said, and this is an interview, he's on record, Tiburón says, it's not even 24 hours after we lost that final match that we met up. He met up with Higuera and some of the top brass for Coras, and he got fired. He said they couldn't agree on how to manage the club, and for the follow-up season. But I think at that point he already had Camoranesi lined up, and it's just linked with Juventus, linked with Italia, World Cup champion.
Let me ask you all this. So would you prefer to have for your club like a Sir Alex, or prefer have the coach? Oh man, I wish I could remember his name. Very famous European coach said, if I stay more than 3 years at a club, I lose my touch, basically. So I only want to be at a club 3 years at a time.
No, sir. I like the Sir Alex.
You want a Sir Alex?
And you know what? I do think Almeida would be able to do something similar at Chivas, but he's not set on staying at the club. Huh?
Right. Nacho Torres would probably be the closest thing to a Sir Alex that Mexico has.
Yeah. And
maybe Tuca.
Right now, Tuca was 7 years, and Arias and Necaxa, was he like 10 years?
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, Almeida, his mind is set on going to Europe or coaching a national team. So just to continue with the whole, you know, tug of war. It was just about 2 months ago when, in an interview with El Financiero, it was Almeida's agent pretty much said he's going to be at the club for 6 more months. It's basically the end of the season. You know, keep in mind this guy has what should be now a 4-year contract.
Right.
So you know, and then there was the rumors, you know, during preseason about Alaves offering Almeida the spot. You know, so
But that's like the worst thing that could happen for him is to go to Alaves. I mean, you know, who would you rather coach? Would you rather coach? You know, I don't think there's even a song about Alaves.
yeah, it could hurt his stock if he goes and the team gets relegated and
Right.
get relegated just because he doesn't have the funds to build a competitive team.
See, I think Almeida's on the right track, and I think he's going to stay at Chivas. I think he's going to stay at Chivas not just for this season, I think for next season too, unless something calamitous happens with the national. Because I think the natural progression for him is to go to Mexico, is to become the Mexico head coach, which I think is after the World Cup. I think is if he's still in Mexico, I think more than 80% probable. And then, you know, he seems to be a coach that you know, might be given the opportunity to do a full cycle, and then after that, and if he's able to take Mexico to where, you know, further than what previous coaches have taken him, then I think he can ride his ticket and go anywhere. I think he can be like Vasco and go and make the jump. And because that, you know, because of where he was born, he wouldn't have to apprentice at a club for a few years before he makes the jump to a more prominent club. But on the other hand, we have this guy, the CEO of Chivas, JLH, Jose Luis Higuera, who could definitely be you know, throw a monkey wrench in that whole career trajectory, just because of the fact that as Joel said, he gets a little temperamental when it comes to how he handles things. So
yeah, and you know what, he has in the past thrown a couple of wrenches. They just never done much damage. For example, when they were asking about the transfers for next season, this was a while back, and Matias Almeida said we're not talking about it until the end of the season. And then, like a few days later, I get us tweeting, which goalkeeper would you like to see at Chivas?
right.
You know, so he would do things like that.
Has he still blocked you?
Oh yes, I'm still blocked.
So you don't have like an alias that you can go. You're like, you know, like Chiquis that has his like multiple Twitter personalities.
No, I don't. No, his most interesting stuff's been on interviews. I think he's been prone to leaking information when they rustle him.
Now Chivas's next contest is at home against Puebla. So Joel, is that the Gordiguapa that's gonna right the ship for Chivas this week?
Well, I don't know, man. Puebla's been a bit wishy-washy. Who knows? This could be Chiquis, life and death for the Chiquis, for the Puebla coach.
For Chiquis Garcia, but he had a good result against Tijuana. I watched the game.
Oh, all right.
They had a good result for they tied Tijuana, who, you know, as far as coaches, I mean, I forget what the gentleman's name is at Tijuana, but I mean, he looks Chacho. He looks like an overgrown 4-year-old boy. I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
But see, Puebla
it cracks me up.
Puebla started bad. They started with a 5-0 defeat.
When does Puebla ever start well?
And then they had a second defeat to Veracruz. And
do they honestly?
No, right.
Puebla
I'm seeing the results.
Do Puebla and
Veracruz
play each other every week?
Maybe.
Yeah, Chivas will beat them.
Chivas should be able to beat them, but I mean,
El Chaman has spoken, Joel. He says
He says Chivas will beat them.
Chivas will win.
Tijuana is going to have a really bad season. I mean, they're already having a bad season, but they're
so that's going to be the nail in.
And they lost one of their better players.
Garcia's coughing.
Paul. No, I think Chiquis. I mean, Puebla's not doing that. I mean, honestly, I mean, for Puebla, if Chiquis can keep them afloat, which I think they will. I mean, they have they played 2 games. They have two losses, 2 ties. That's not terrible. I mean, better than Tijuana, who has played 3 games and only has the 1 draw.
But they have a 9-goal. They have allowed 9 goals and only
they are -7. You are right there. Joel, Puebla's -7. But you know who is 1 escalon above Puebla right now?
It's Santos. Oh, sorry, you mean point wise? They were talking relegation.
3. No, well, relegation is but no, but in the table, Chivas is at 16, Puebla is at 17, because Chivas also has a -3 goal differential, as does Pachuca. So Chivas has been low. Of course, when you lose 4-1 after drawing, you're going to have a -3 goal differential. But let's go ahead and a team that had a Gordiguapa this week and wasn't able to cash it in was Santos. Dan, you have to at least start thinking about checking the descenso table now that Santos has had that slow start.
No.
Not yet?
We don't need to be checking. No.
All right.
I mean, I know it's a short season, but it's not that short. And
well, you do have 34 games. It's not just this one, but it's the next one.
Exactly. So
because the porcentaje is a full season.
Yeah, I'm not. No, it's way too soon, and I still think the team is too good to. They'll figure it out. I don't know how much better they're going to get, but they'll definitely start picking up some wins. I'm fairly certain of that. So definitely no alarm bells quite yet, but it's just definitely not the way to start the season.
They only have a couple of points. Actually, they have 3 points because they have 3 draws. Isn't that how they started?
3 draws, yeah. Two away and 1 at home, and 1. It's the loss at home that makes it look all that bad. So,
but they will get it together. Now they
pick up 3 on the week on tomorrow.
Yeah, because they play Tijuana tomorrow, and Tijuana just hasn't looked good. And then again, they get rid of Paul Arriola, who. Well, I think is a good player. Certainly for Liga MX, I think he has a tremendous amount of quality. Heading over to DC United, a move that was a little surprising to me, but it's pretty obvious that the team is taking a long time to make the adjustment from Piojo to the new guy Chacho Caudet.
I'm not going to go out on a limb and say we're going to win because that's what I thought last weekend after losing to the mighty Veracruz. So I'm expecting a very difficult match.
Yeah, probably a tie.
Yeah, end up playing it on the rug.
Veracruz isn't really a slouch this season. They've been playing okay. They've been holding their own.
Let's see. So he says here, dile a Yon y a Jorcito que hablen de mi León. Nomás se la pasan hablando de Chivas de mierda. Well,
wow.
Hijo de la chingada, no mames, güey.
Jeez, Joel, you shouldn't be saying no. Well, León, León is another one of those. I mean, at least for me, I can't speak for all of you. Kind of a romantic team, just because it's a kind of one of the garden spots in Mexico, Guanajuato. Have you all ever been to Guanajuato?
No.
It's amazing. I mean, the whole state's amazing. It's really pretty. And León is one of those classic colonial towns, and I firmly believe that I know they kind of righted the ship a little bit at the Azteca, but I know that the stadium is awful. The no comp, but the fans are terrific and they draw well, and to me it's a perfect World Cup qualifying venue. The state, it has nothing to do with the stadium; it has everything to do with atmosphere and fan support, and León has both in spades. But hopefully, León did get a big win. They have a coach who I think Joel says gets chance after chance after chance.
That's what happens when you worked as Bielsa's Uber driver. I think he You know,
And he kind of dresses like a chofer too. I mean, there's just put a little hat on him. And I think that would definitely
you know
that would
what?
definitely work for him.
Dude can't seem to catch a break. I mean, pretty bad start. They lost to Atlas 3-0. Then they lose to Toluca 3-1. They tied to Cruz Azul at home.
In the last
but then
minute.
they did beat Necaxa, but now they're hosting Monterrey, who are the hot, they're the hot team right now.
Yeah, they'll lose that.
Then they go to Puebla, which I think they could get points. Then they host Santos. I think their schedule's not that bad. I mean, if Torrente will have a chance to bounce back.
It is unfortunate that that Leon did get rid of both Gallito and Hulit, because I think if those guys were still with Leon, I think that the team would still be playing at a very decent level. I'm not saying that their replacements are not particularly good, but when those guys were playing well, the team was really playing well, as evidenced by the fact that they won a couple of titles. But they weren't able to get it going in neither Libertadores or the CONCACAF, which frankly shocked me, especially the CONCACAF one, that they weren't able to get that going. But you're right though, Javier Torrente is getting. It seems like he has a lot of cheeks have been turned in the Leon front office, or I should say the Pachuca front office, because let's be honest, the decisions for Leon are not made at Leon; they're made up a little further southeast.
And they're also a Boselli injury away from. I think that's a player that if they lose, the team would just.
That's just like Pumas is a completely different. I mean, I think we were talking about it over the weekend. Nico Castillo is, in the short time he's been in Liga MX, in my opinion, he is one of the best, one of the top forwards in the league. I mean, it is very obvious, and he is easily Pumas' most valuable player, because when he went down injured, Pumas was like in 4th place when he went down injured last year. Came back about 5-6 games later, and by that point, Pumas was like on a terrible losing streak. They ended up in 16th place, and they're one bad season away from putting themselves in some really serious danger. So you're right, though. I mean, Leon they're just not as deep as they used to be. They almost have to be playing a little perfect, to just everything's gonna have to go really have to go 100%. Luck is gonna have to be on their side if they're gonna make any kind of noise.
And if you're a Leon fan, you have to be disappointed with Grupo Pachuca.
Absolutely.
They just haven't. You see all the good transfers, and they all head up. They all go for Pachuca.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, imagine if Honda would have gone over to. Leon instead of Pachuca.
And he hasn't played, supposedly, because he's still adjusting to the climate.
What is he adjusting to?
I don't know. I think he just came in to play the Clubs World Cup. He's going to be gone after that.
Yeah, you're probably right.
It's in Japan. I think he even, I heard he bought like the TV rights.
Honda did? He bought the TV rights to the Club World Cup?
Or at least for the Pachuca games. But I mean, yeah, this is a business move.
He's a trophy player.
Yeah, it was a business move, man.
It's a Casa Trofeos, a Merc.
Well, they're not going to give up any players after losing Chucky to Leon or whoever else, man.
But you're right. But Leon, to me, Leon is a great friend. Now if there was ever a place that needed a new stadium, it's Leon, because they have the fan base. As evidenced. Leon is a traditional, historical team. It's a team that has been around a long time.
They were the first Campeonísimo.
Yeah, and they deserve. They deserve the. If they're going to be in the league. In their latest incarnation, they should be treated as such, and it's a team that when it plays well, it's better for the league. So, You know, I mean, honestly, to me, like it seems like Chiapas, stuff like that. If they're having a good run, you know, great. But you know, the historic team, you know, to me, Santos is a team that, you know, 20 years ago, I'd look at, you know, like I say Santos and I saw their ugly uniforms. I go, Santos really is that really? But they've been so consistent, you know, in those 20 years that to me, and the fact that they have that really nice stadium, that to me, when Santos is good, then the league is good because when Santos is good, they're great and they have a terrific home field advantage. And you know, that's what, to me, that's what makes teams special. Is that when you're watching a team play, and I used to love the old was it Estadio Corona, that they'd play like at 4:00 in the afternoon, whatever it was. It was just blazing hot. I mean, they really knew how to take advantage of that home field. It was smart. They took advantage of their home field.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It was always packed.
Exactly. I mean, it packed to the gills. I mean, it was just a great atmosphere. I remember right before the World Cup in '94, I think Santos, Dan, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Santos win the title right before the World Cup, the '94 World Cup?
Man, my memory is pretty hazy.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anyway, so I remember we were watching the final, and I was with I better turn around to make sure that I'm alone. Okay, good. I was with some. It was the year after I graduated from college, and I was with some girls, and we'd gone to a party, and it was, of course, you know, you wake up at noon or whatever it is, and like, hey, I know that you guys don't really care about this, but this game's on, and I'm going to watch it. So can we please, you know, wait until we do stuff? This was, you know, back when you didn't have it on phones, so you actually had to watch it on TV. So like, oh yeah, whatever, you know. And then I start watching it, and then, you know, some things happen. So by the end of it, of course, the two girls are riveted because it was just an incredibly exciting game, and there were just some crazy good plays. I think that was when I don't remember if Jared was on that team or not, but they had just an incredibly good attack, and so I was like, man, you know, actually maybe okay, I mean, you know, maybe the Santos will be right. And then the fact that they had the, you know, the logo that looked like the Corona logo, so it was good. I'm really happy that they've been able to stay, just because of the fact that that not only have they stayed, but they've been consistently one of the better teams in the league.
I think as an organization, they've been one of the better run organizations.
Absolutely. So
the model.
Yeah, all we're saying is that León needs to have that you know, that kind of respect needs to be afforded to the club, because I mean, at the very least, the fans certainly deserve it. So and you know, again, you know, León is one. I'm a big fan of the historical teams coming. You know, it's good to see Necaxa back. We need to get Atlante back for any other reason other than the fact that it would be great to go see a game in Cancun. You know, if there was a city that's just dying for a really cool stadium, it's Cancun. So we need to get them back in the league as well. So, you know, every so often we'll do a little León talk. So thanks to Richard Flores for forcing our hand. We certainly appreciate that. But Dan, I'm happy for you that you're not panicking just yet. Not panicking just yet.
Todo con medida.
And Richard chimes in and says, "Pues que suelten más feria para mi León chingao." And he's right. He's right. I mean, they certainly they have the money to spend. So let's not pretend that they don't.
Especially after all the sponsors they have on their NASCAR uniforms.
It is impressive. It is impressive.
You had to get your dig in there, huh?
I actually have one of their uniforms.
León?
Yeah.
Well, Chicas, you go down to Mexico all the time. Have you been to León?
I go to León all the time. Well, I go to Querétaro, and we always go to León for you know, because of all the leather and stuff.
Right.
It's one of the spots, that and San Miguel de Allende.
That's right, because the other team that played in León was Unión de Curtidores, which is loosely translated the leather workers union.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
the leather workers group.
León is the leather capital.
Yeah, that's what. I'm sorry, Daniel. We interrupted you. Please.
What kind of leather you're buying?
I'm intrigued. I didn't know that was they were known for leather
assless chaps.
those are very famous. Very famous in León.
You still want to show me your cucumber?
Those are usually found on your second floor of your sex shopping.
Those are in. Well, see, we don't have basements here in Texas. I don't know what it's like in California, but.
Well, if you're
gonna have a dungeon, it's gonna have to be as part of the floor plan.
Yeah, you just can't have it on the main level.
You know, I always wanted to do a
The
spoof
kid,
of
the
that
kids
shit.
might ask a
Yeah.
question, and they're like, "Hey, what's that, mom?" And that's why that stuff needs to be either in the basement
Right.
or on the second floor.
I'll ask Joel says practically married. So you guys ever watch that show, House Hunters?
Is that like a home and garden
where they have
or
like
DIY?
yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
they have to pick between the three houses. So I always thought it would be really funny. So if you have a House Hunters, so you have like the man, the couple, and then like they carry along their like the gimp from Pulp Fiction into each house. I think that'd be a really funny skit. Oh, this would be a perfect room for you, Gimp. Starts getting really excited, but gets too excited, so they have to whip him. I just think that'd be really funny. But I digress.
All he does is grunt.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Moving on. I know that obviously not the crowd for that. Not the crowd for that.
That's why Leonard's famous for making all these wonderful leather goods. Okay. All right.
And when I was a kid, there used to be a team in the league that was called Unión de Curtidores, and their uniform was kind of like Puebla. But I think when I remember them, they would wear a all white uniform and had a brown sash, which I later came to interpret as a bandolier type thing, because they were the leather workers, the leatherheads, which I thought was kind of cool. So anyway,
it's cool how many all the cities in Guanajuato have their specialty. Like Irapuato has fresas and
Right.
Celaya. That's a pretty cool state.
Yeah, it is. It's and then of course, what is it? Upwards of 25% of the world's silver comes from Guanajuato too. So it's they certainly have some cash too. So I do for you folks that have never been down there, I do recommend visiting the great state of Guanajuato. Now we do have some folks in Liga MX over the past couple of days who have not been as polite as we have been tonight here on the podcast. Of course, I'm talking about Paco Gemes, who gave a salute after what he thought was Cruz Azul's best game of the season, and the fans were yelling at him as he was walking off, and he politely with his hand, you, and of course, and that's what the press has latched onto with him. So even when he thinks they're playing well, it's he's unfortunately made it all about him. But I mean, this is surely just one of those just ridiculous things that'll just be over and done with, right? I mean, do we even need to waste any more time on this than what I just said?
Oh, I think it's building up. Like little by little, things are happening. His frustration is setting in.
What kind of frustration? I mean, they're playing all right. They're not terrible. They're playing okay.
He's getting rustled for every little thing that the fans are doing. So it's like he's not the guy for Cruz Azul if Cruz Azul is the constant like kicking boy of the league.
So they need a team that's more.
Well, he either needs to be able to take it, or he should have thought of what team he was going to. But
they need somebody with a thinner skin, huh?
Well, he's got thin skin, so I think. And
I'm sorry, thicker skin. My fault. Thicker skin.
So I think people have accused him of even faking, because he said he just flipped off one individual because they made like a crude remark about his daughter, which I think some people say he made that up and he's just lying.
Well, is that a flippable offense?
Yeah, I would back him up. But if he's lying about it, it didn't look like he was looking at a single individual. It looked like he was just looking down and the whole crowd. But
I mean, we've seen worse.
Do you think he'd lie about someone insulting his daughter, though? That seems like you don't want to do that, right?
You don't want to admit
Yeah, man, that's bad form. I would hope he wouldn't lie about that.
Well, either way, I mean, this is just one of those things that's just going to blow over. So you think that this is like the like when you have a hurricane in the Gulf and they say, well, a depression has just left the coast of Africa. Has the Cruz Azul depression left the coast of Africa and it's going to become Hurricane Cementero here in a few weeks?
If he continues to not, well, I mean, he says the team is playing well. If I can buy that. But if the team continues to maybe not score goals, like it was a 0-0, I mean, he wants to go to a game where there's no goals. and the fans turn against him even more, he's not going to handle it. He's going to he's going to either quit or just get out of there.
Are you saying we're going to have to update our? Are we going to have to update our lady Cruz Azul drops if that happens?
This time it'll be Lord Jimenez crying in a press conference or something.
Yeah.
You got to figure this is going to be their. This has got to be his last season, right? To turn it around.
Well, yeah. I mean, he has to get it done. At the very least, he at least has to get him to like the semifinals of the Liguilla for him to stay. I think. I mean, this is good. Maybe some of you.
I think getting into the playoffs will get it done.
I mean, this is for many years. When I was growing up, even younger, I mean, there was America and then Cruz Azul, and that was it. I mean, there wasn't a top 4; it was a top 2. I mean, that's just. I hate to say it, Joel, but that's just the reality. Chivas was nowhere near as strong as America and Cruz Azul for many years.
Oh yeah, that goes without saying, John.
Yeah. So for you youngsters, I know that that may come as a shock to you, but I mean, Cruz Azul, they're like. This is a very big team, and you have to get results. You have to.
It just seems like an awfully long time since they were even competing for championships, because they were always making the playoffs. But
well, I mean, 3 years ago they finished the season number 1 in at least on the table, and then they lost. Of course, as they're wont to do. They lost in the first round to who ended up being the eventual champs, which was Leon. But you're right. I mean, after that, they haven't really done much. And
the loss to America was the last one, right?
No, that was they lost to. And then the finals. Yeah, as far as finals go, it's been 4 years since they made the final.
That's not too long.
I mean, it's.
I think it is kind of long. It's 4 years, technically 8 seasons.
Well, how long has Chivas not been in a final since this last one?
It took them 10 years. That's a long time.
That would be 20 seasons in Liga MX.
I don't think 4 years isn't bad. Like, not bad when you consider if you're just looking at the fact that they got to a final. But when you keep in mind that they haven't been able to make Liguillas at all, that's where I think it looks pretty poor.
That is for Cruz Azul fans, that's why they get so upset when they. Exactly. I mean, it's rough for them because they are used to a much higher standard. There's a reason why Cruz Azul fans, like there's a lot of guys my age that are in the world of the media, like the Leon Krauses, and there was some other, I forget who the other guy, but Paco Villa. There's a reason why they're Cruz Azul fans, because when we were kids, they dominated. I mean, they were. And as a Pumas fan, it hurts to say, but they were the dominant team.
Oh yeah, I got a nephew who loved Cruz Azul, and then all of a sudden he abandoned ship. It was the Tigres.
Wow.
So I think that's happening a lot as well.
So he was a cambia cemento.
Exactly.
That is pretty crazy. So what is going on with Tigres? So they're having kind of a slow start too. I mean, they really can't use the final excuse that much. But I mean, again, like Santos says, should anyone even worry about Tigres? I mean, are they gonna get it going?
Definitely, it'd be a shock if they didn't figure it out at some point to get into the Liga.
Now, Chiquis correctly predicted that Tigres would lose to Pachuca last week. Tigres this week is playing Pumas. So I have to ask the Chaman, what's going to happen?
Yeah. I want to say, like, I got to ignore my heart, but my heart's sort of saying a 1 or a tie.
Right.
But I want to say Tigres is going to have to come back and take this one.
How dare you? How dare you, sir? Actually, I was going to play that either way because it would have worked either way. But no, I mean, it seems like whenever Tigres is having a rough time and then things aren't going well, here along comes Pumas, and they throttle them like 4-0, and then they don't lose the rest of the way. So yeah, I think it's in Monterrey on top of it. So
You guys are the slump busters?
for Tigres, we have been for quite a while. Yes,
That's interesting. Never knew that.
yeah, it's
Even
not
for-
stuff that we like to talk about.
Even for America, which frustrates me even more.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't get out of Azteca.
But Pumas, what can you tell us about their latest acquisition?
You know, I just saw that today. I was building.
And-
This sounds so.
And they beat Tigres to it.
It's yeah. I
Surprising.
mean, where did he come from, Joel? Is he from down south or is he?
Celta de Vigo.
Oh,
Chilean national team player.
You know. How did Pumas? So that to me just shows you the biggest difference between Mexico and countries that really want to get to the bottom of what happens when they have a national embarrassment. So Germany loses in the group stage of 2 Eurocopas in a row, 2000 and 2004. In between, they made the World Cup final, but certainly not with their best team. And they have Das Reboot, and we see the result of that. Mexico loses 7-1, and instead of doing an autocrítica and doing very, 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 very circumspect, how does Liga MX and the FMF react to losing 7-1 to Chile? What do? They increase the amount of Chileans playing in the Liga MX.
Well, John, do you know for a fact that it won't improve the national team through osmosis?
That is true.
Do you know that for a fact that it won't?
Dan, I can honestly say that without prejudice, that I cannot honestly say that it won't improve the national team by osmosis.
So I mean, I think if we bring enough of them, I think that's the theory, that if enough get here, they're just gonna learn how to do it just like them, because.
So that's what
they do.
Pumas never lands guys like this. How on earth? I mean, they just don't have the cash for or at least, I mean, they have the cash, but they hardly ever spend money like this for big money guys. So something.
Would you say it was absolutely needed?
I'm not even sure what position he plays, to be honest with you, because like I said, I didn't see the news until
The midfielder.
today. Well, yeah, I mean, Pumas needs. I mean, yeah. They need help. They definitely need help in spots. So I mean, if he can help, fantastic. There are a couple of guys right now that are playing for Pumas that are just, frankly, they're just cashing checks. There's this guy Ravelo, is that his name? Chiquis.
Is he still there?
Who is 100% worthless. I mean, he's just not. He has done nothing of any kind of significance since in the 2 years that he's played for Pumas. So he just hasn't, and there are a couple of youngsters, which is honestly, to me, what I, as a Pumas fan, what I care about is that are, that might possibly have some potential, but it's just that potential. So yeah, I mean, if you can get a quality player like that, then he's absolutely worth it. And if, again, to me, Pumas, the goal for a club, for Pumas, is to get, more than, stay, at least they get a minimum of 20 points. If you make the Liguilla, fantastic. But if you can do that for a couple of seasons, then you don't have to worry about the Liguilla, the descenso thing happening in the Pumas. But if they have another season in the teens, and then they have problems. Look at Atlas. Atlas has major issues, and on top of the fact that they lost their captain, and who knows when he's going to come back to play. His assets have been frozen both in the U.S. and in Mexico. He really can't earn a living or do much of anything because he's got nothing. So they finally get their guy back, and now he can't play. They just lost another one of their key players, the African player whose name is eluding me at the moment, but he's out with an injury. So they are serious. serious trouble. And on top of everything else, they are in the thick of the descenso. And you think that, I'm sure that that TV Azteca, when they bought Atlas, was not expecting to have these kinds of problems. Joel, you must be loving it.
No, I think that rivalry is more if you're in Mexico.
Well, particularly in Guadalajara.
Yeah, you're not gonna. It's not the same sentiment here,
Well, see, Atlas to me, and again, I'm a little older than most, but to me, they're like the lovable losers.
Yeah.
They're like the Chicago Cubs before the Cubs won the World Series. A team that you just know we're gonna, if by some miracle that actually make it somehow, deep into any kind of a possibility to win any kind of trophy, they're going to break your heart. But 90% of the time, they were nowhere near even competing for it.
Yeah, and going back to when they had, aside from the Clásico Tapatio, they were a fun, for me, they were a fun team to watch. Back when they had Marquez and Osorno, Cepeda, they had that, that really good crop of players. And La Volpe was the coach. And that was just, a fun team to watch play.
They were, they had a game against America where there was, I think Chiquis, if I'm not mistaken, you seem to believe that that the Atlas got, or America got, some 12th man help from the ref. And that guy, or was it? No, I think you said that the Televisa's checks must have cleared. Was that your comment after seeing that? We'll just call it iffy penalty call against Atlas.
Yeah, that was one of the games, and there's two that I've counted so far for America that
it had some questionable.
Because before it wasn't as big of an issue, but it seems like today they finally found some funds for the referees, or this season especially.
They were able to loosen up some. That they found that cost center that hadn't been tapped into just yet.
Yeah.
I see.
The ref needs to be celebrating with them pretty soon.
And when Club America yesterday played, what was it, the Universidad Autónoma Estado de México, in that really cool stadium in Toluca, which looked fantastic last night, packed. Yeah, I don't know if y'all got a chance to watch the game. The Potros went up 2-0, and then, which is like the worst thing you could do. It was almost like it was like, oh, did you guys really need to score that? Because now you're going to lose. And that's exactly what happened. And America ended up winning the game 3-2 in the Copa MX. But again, the atmosphere was terrific. A chance for America fans to go to Toluca, or the fans in Toluca to see them. A huge chance for the Potros fans to play America. And then they gave. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I'm starting to think to like the Copa MX matches almost as much, sometimes more, than the matches over the weekend. Some of those matches are just incredibly entertaining. They are really fun to watch, and the one last night was no exception.
They were pretty excited too. America was, weren't they? Like they won the World Cup.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, I wouldn't go that far, but
the league or something.
But we saw Zacatepec beat Tigres last week. There was a couple of games in the last tournament. I remember one time I think Chivas was playing León in the final, and it's just a great electricity, and there was a lot of buzz about it. I'm starting to really like having the tournament. I really wish they would change the format, because I think it's almost a little too much. But then again, cracks. Why am I complaining about it if I'm sitting here talking about how great the games are? So, obviously, the fan in me is hooked, but the cynical journalist is still thinks it can be better.
Yeah, it wasn't. Let me see. Yeah, Tigres lost to Zacatepec.
That should almost be. I think that should be a CantinaMX road trip. Go down to Zacatepec. We'll stay in Cuernavaca. Go to the fresa in me is going to come out. We can go to Las Mañanitas, and have a lovely drink by the swans and the peacocks in the Hacienda hotel there. You guys, and then we go watch a game over in Zacatepec. It would be a lot of fun.
Very nice.
It would be very nice. But it looks like Piojo's got America going there. I know that we don't have our resident Americanista with us this evening. I'm sure he's listening live on the YouTube. Ronnie Luna, we do send out a shout out and just we'll just give just a little.
¡Cállese, carajo!
I hit the wrong button again. Just a little bit. That's enough. We don't need to hear them. I don't want to get Joel upset again and have him go through his convulsions every time he hears parchis. But it looks like we've lost Joel. Hopefully Joel will join us again. But America is starting to play well, and again, along with Monterrey, I think have to be considered, at least right now, the two teams that have played the best and would probably would as always at this point consider them favorites to win the title.
I was going to ask Joel one thing about Chivas. I don't know if you guys saw this video of Jair Pereira get nutmegged by a Cantera dude.
By Canterano?
Yeah, Canterano. He
Wow.
got nutmegged, and then he went after him and he kicked the ball towards him, and then he went and slapped him upside the head for doing that.
Really?
You don't mess with the veterans like that. You don't play games. You got to know your place.
How's that a game? He got past him.
Yeah.
What was wrong with that? I don't think that's.
Well, if you're in practice, you don't humiliate your starting players. You don't play games and try to do toneles and all that stuff.
Why not?
That's what. Okay, this is what I saw on ESPN, and Hurt Gomez was pretty much making the argument that there's a certain respect. There's an unwritten rule that you got to respect, like respecting your elders and things like that. So, and I don't agree, but and I tweeted it out actually, but that was the argument that Pereira felt the same way. He probably got humiliated and embarrassed. And
maybe if he was a really a truly special player that can afford to act like a dick, then I could kind of understand it. But Jair Pereira, come on, man.
Yeah, he's a jag.
Yeah, I'm like, you're just a regular player, man. It's like, what respect, dude? You just got punked by a kid, dude. Just take it on the chin and try to get better.
I don't let it happen in the first place if you don't want to.
Yeah. I think that's stupid. I mean, how else are the younger kids supposed to earn playing time if they have to take their foot off the pedal during practice? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, so
I'm gonna have to agree with Daniel, and I think you are too, Chiqui. So it's not like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I made that argument to Hurt Gomez. I don't know why he was sort of. I guess he was disagreeing with the rest of the guys on the panel.
I mean, that's creating a culture of mediocrity.
But a lot of times when you see that, Chiquis, as I'm not saying that Herc did this, but it could be that he was, hey, just whatever position that they take, just take the opposite. I mean, hopefully that wasn't the case. Hopefully he spoke from his heart. But and again, I've never played soccer professionally, so I'm not sure exactly what the unwritten rules are of practice, so to speak.
I just can't see how that mentality would ever benefit a team or players, because you're basically telling the younger kids and the non-starting 11 to go at half speed.
Let them win.
They're gonna start guys and
very sensitive. Let them win.
Yeah.
That's the whole, and it all goes back to the.
That's mental midgetry right there, dude.
It's the whole Ay Niveles thing. I'm even reminded of Nady and his comment about Europe. It's that whole thing where
I need to get that. That is the one drop I cannot believe I don't have. I think it's because it was like you can't really hear it all that well. I mean, he said it, but it's not. It's not clear as day as a.
Y usted no me va a decir qué carajo tengo que hacer.
I mean, that's fantastic. But the yo estoy Europa y tú no. I think that there's just a little too much noise.
say for
Cool,
example,
you can play it every time someone gets transferred
That's right.
Yeah, like say for example, if Osorio were to not be forced, but just on his own volition, not call up for an important game any of the European players, and just call up Mexican League players.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that, Chickies, because of the reports that I've been reading, he's not going to call up that many European players at all for the upcoming games.
I can sort of understand that though.
That's the smart decision.
Yeah, they're almost qualified, and they're going to qualify, so I could understand.
Not only that, though, but the players that are in Europe are hardly guarantees on their teams.
Well, they haven't even. I mean, they've just started the season, so it's not like they've been playing all that much.
But Raul's already crying. He wants to leave.
Well, you knew that. I mean, Raul, his days were numbered the minute he said no to that $56 million transfer.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's soured things for him with the club, but just in general, they're not exactly lighting the world on fire. I mean, Chucky had a good start, obviously. Like you said, it's still super early, but a lot of our Europeans didn't have the greatest of seasons last year, and the number of Europeans has dwindled. Well, it's been a wash, I guess. It's been a bit of a wash.
And the thing about yeah, because we have to count, of course, Julit and Lalo Herrera, who are just lighting the sky on fire up there in Scotland. But the reality is, as far as yes, Mexico's best players, for the most part, are playing in Europe. I don't think anybody denies that. It's good for them to play in Europe. I know that Ron and some folks say that maybe it's not a good idea to go to Europe. I know a lot of us disagree. I think that the only way that it's a success for Mexican players to be in Europe is when they have upwards of 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 players in Europe. When they have that many players in Europe, then yeah, it's definitely going to work out for them. But the reality is that there's barely that many Mexicans that even play locally in Liga MX. So if for folks that are just so thankful to see Mexican players go to Europe, and yes, it's great for them to go. As let's pointed out many times on this show, the average lifespan or a career of a Mexican player when he goes to Europe is not even 3 years. But but the reality is that if one, we have 1 out of 5 guys make it, but we only send 15 guys, so only 3 of those guys are going to make it. So if you look at the averages, whereas countries like Argentina, Uruguay, and Brazil, and Chile to a certain degree, Colombia obviously has done very well with their exports. They might have the same odds, or maybe their odds might be a little different. Maybe for Argentina, it's like maybe a 1 and 2 or 1 and 3, but they also have 300 guys over there. So yeah, they're going to have a much bigger pool from which to pull from. So that's why I've always thought that if Liga MX isn't going to give Mexican players a chance, there is a great big league just to the north of Liga MX that is going to be expanding to 28 teams over the next few years. There is no reason why Mexicans cannot be to MLS what Argentines are to Liga MX.
And the reason being ourselves, John. The main reason we can't be that would be our own selves. Just seeing a lot of the hate that's been going on.
Well, maybe for the fans, Joel. I mean, but I mean, as far as the players, though, I mean, are the players going to start seeing are they going to start seeing what opportunities they might have?
But even kids here, if they grow up with that mentality, or seeing that mentality from their friends or family, of just rejecting this league, because if you're born in the U.S., you're more likely to have a better chance of playing professional in a team here than in Mexico. But if you're rejecting that,
Well, I think that's going to be a cold hard truth that they're going to have to learn to deal with, because the current setup of the league isn't exactly friendly to new young players. So they're going to either have to make a decision to, do you really want to rot in second, third division soccer for the majority of your career, or take a chance and play somewhere else?
We're talking Liga MX, third division?
Yeah, I mean, where else are these guys going to find playing time? It's not like the lower leagues have limits on foreigners, so they're going to be
Yeah,
competing with them as well.
Well,
Yeah,
but
and-
it's not only that though. But I mean, if you're a Chivas player, right, and say you're fulanito, de tal from wherever, we're going to ship you to Zacatepec. You're like, oh man, great! I'm gonna get some playing time in second division. But then you have a good game against somebody, and then Portland Timbers go, hey, you know what? I kind of like you. You're young. You fit with what we do. I would like I would like to sign you. I mean, think about what that does for a player, though. Is okay? You're going to get to play now. Granted, you're going to get to play, in first division. You get to be on TV every week, right? You're going to be noticed a hell of a lot more playing in Portland than you would be playing in Zacatepec because you're on TV. And if you start playing well, then it's not just the fans are going to be noticing, and it's going to be scouts from maybe another Liga MX team, or maybe even a team over in Europe. So to me, I wish I could say it was a no-brainer, but I do think that Mexican players, young Mexican players particularly, should not turn. I mean, if they send you on loan to go play at Petroleros de Salamanca or whatever it is, or if you might have a chance to play at Houston Dynamo, maybe it would be beneficial to you to play over in Houston Dynamo. Just signed a guy who was the 10 for Argentina's U20 team. They will take a chance on young talent. MLS
Well, I
will,
mean,
absolutely.
I think we have a good example with Salcedo. He was having a hard time in the youth teams in Mexico at both Chivas and Tigres, and he ended up going to Real Salt Lake, where he got a lot of games as a starter in the first team.
Right, and then he ended up back at Chivas.
How did he
with
get that?
with a release clause because he was already being scouted. He was already part of the youth setup for Mexico, and he was already being scouted for Europe. So that was one of the ways that Nestor managed to bring him in, because he said, "I'm gonna give you a release clause, so if you get a good offer, you're able to go." And he's in Serie A right now, but I mean, it didn't hurt his career that he
Not at
went
all.
abroad.
In
I think that
in this case, it helped it. It gave it a boost.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I wanted to say. It's the mentality you have. If you come to the MLS with because you cashed out, you're just here to collect your check.
Like Rafa.
Yeah, nothing's gonna happen. But if you're professional about it, you could still maintain a good level of play. I mean, we saw with Cuauhtemoc, we've seen it with other players like also Claudio Suarez, and there's been others.
Right, I mean, we're
Campos.
seeing it right now with David Villa. He's leading the league in scoring.
I just think it's silly to assume that, and just using Giovanni as the one example of, just being in that league leaches the talent from your body, which is, I mean, obviously it's silly, but it's even more silly when you look at how the summer went. I mean, that's going to be your scapegoat?
I don't necessarily think Giovanni had a bad confetti
Neither
cut.
do I. Absolutely not. I mean, I think
he was the only one that
certainly-
showed anything in the Germany game.
Was he played out of position though?
But he was playing out of position. But when he went and did what he does best, he did okay.
and he had moments.
Yeah.
I mean,
But when you're asking him to defend, I mean, you're asking a guy who never defends to defend. He's not gonna defend.
Going off of Dan's comment that the league will leech your talent, or that it just drops.
well, I mean, you look at the message boards, you look at Twitter. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Well, that's what I'm getting at, Dan. I remember when I first started posting on Big Soccer. It was one of the first massive forums out there at the time, and I'm talking about 2017 years ago. I mean, it was the first time I could read comments from the other fans. So I would go into the forums of the Colombian, Argentine, Peruvian every time one of their players went to Liga MX, and it was always negative comments. It was pretty much the same, You could hold a mirror. They were pretty much saying the same thing, that their talent was going to drop, they were going to be stuck in Mexico. They weren't going anywhere. And the truth is, the talented players always did leave. You know, if you were talented,
Well, it's not that they were
the
talented.
saying
They were
goes,
talented players with drive.
yeah, exactly. So you know the saying, cream rises to the top. So we saw Rodallega, the Colombian guy, and he ended up in EPL. You know, and then you had what was the two guys that went to Cruz Azul? They were actually in the Argentine national team.
Chelito.
Chilito Delgado and Luciano Figueroa.
Figueroa, right?
And they both ended up in, you know, Luciano ended up in Serie A and the other guy in the French league,
Yep.
which he didn't amount to much. But I mean, they still went abroad. So it's always been that mentality, like, oh, you go to this league and that's it, you're done, you know.
I think
I think that perception's been shattered though, because when you start once you started seeing, I think Maradona had a big part in that when he started calling up Argentines to the national team. I think he might have been like the first one, at least that I recall.
Yeah, he called up Villa, and then he called up Chaco. They got called up by Mexico. Not 3 years later.
Yeah, it still hasn't been a big impact.
Bielsa did call like some kid that never.
But that might be Argentina. But Liga MX has for years been you know, there's always 4 or 5 Chileans that will come from Liga MX. You know, Paraguay, you know, Colombia to a certain degree, Ecuador for sure. I mean, there's always been outside of the big three, and even Loco Abreu played in Liga MX for a while too.
We're talking little things, man. We're trying to pump up our league and pump up MLS. But the majority of the high quality players are going to be in Europe. If you're going to Liga MX from Argentina, then you couldn't quite make it to Europe. If you're going to
that's not true though.
Mexico, and you couldn't quite make it in Europe, and sure, Giovanni.
But
played,
that's not. But hang on a second. I agree and disagree with you. You have to understand that Argentina exports so many players.
Yeah, I agree.
That you know, sometimes Liga MX outbids teams for players. They have the money,
and they've been doing it for years.
Right. So
these players
so just because an Argentine goes to Liga MX doesn't mean that he's failed as a special. It just means that they paid more for him.
Yeah, but they're not.
And offer them better wages.
And on top of that, there are some agents and promotores that say, you know, you need to go to a league that puts a little more, you know, that you have a little bit more pressure than the leagues you have, than what you're playing in now. So yeah, they will absolutely go to Liga MX just to get a little more seasoning before they ship them off to Europe.
Yeah, my point is though that the high impact player for the South American teams are not coming from Liga MX.
I'll say
impact player for Mexican national team has not been proven to be a player that currently plays in MLS. And unless Vela,
well, that's because they haven't had. I mean, they've only had 2 guys that were on MLS teams when they played a World Cup. That was Cuauhtemoc and Jorge Campos.
You guys mentioned Cuauhtemoc, Campos, Suarez. All these guys were up in age at the time when they were in MLS. They didn't have, you know, they had
right. So what you're saying has been completely unproven because you don't have enough of a sample to make that kind of determination because it just hasn't happened yet. And the one guy where it has been a success will absolutely be on the World Cup squad next year. That's Carlos Salcedo.
Well, he's okay.
The point is, Chiquis, is that, you know, I know that Mexico fans are clamoring for Mexico to be better. The only way Mexico gets better is if more Mexicans play. If more Mexicans play, then they have more opportunity. And then and the only way that that's going to happen, and it's not going to happen in Mexico because they're only going to field 9 of them, you know, on 17 teams. What's 9 times 17, Chiquis? Come on, quickly, come on, Chiquis.
I have no idea.
9 times, oh, come on, Chiquis. It's what is it? 162? Is that right? 162
multiplication.
So 162 plus 80. So on any given week, 190 players in Liga MX are Mexican, at the minimum 190.
Half of those get called up to the national team.
So there's 190. Okay, there are 65 Argentines that play in Liga MX alone. There's what like, you know, I'm sure there has to be between, I don't know the number exactly, but there has to be at least between 20 and 30 that play in the EPL, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's maybe 40 to play in Spain, probably another 40 or 50 to play in Italy.
I'm just saying that nothing has been proven in the positive. I know Joel mentioned the one, and it's just the one single example of a young guy in Salcedo going to Real Salt Lake. But that's just one single example.
But that's been the only example.
How many failures have you seen?
Yeah.
We haven't seen anything. That's what I'm saying. We haven't seen anything.
So then why are you trashing it?
I'm not totally trashing it. I'm just saying until we see something positive, then there's nothing really great about people coming back from.
Well, let me ask you this, Chiquis: if you're a player, right, and you say, well, you're gonna play in Zacatepec, where you may or may not gonna play in language in second division for years.
But Vela's not going to Zacatepec. Why didn't he come back to Mexico?
Dude, Vela, don't even worry about Vela. Vela is.
Why didn't Gio come back?
His cake has baked as far as becoming.
You're talking about players that they've been active for over 10 years now.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about players between 18 and 21 who have talent, right?
Yeah, I'm not talking about that though.
But that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, but you only have one example in Salcedo, and that's it.
That's because that's the only example that has come that we've seen.
I know. Because I don't think MLS is looking for young Mexican players. They'd rather have
like a MLS,
the big name Mexican player to attract fans.
MLS
startup league. They're startup.
They do have
4 expansion teams coming up in the next few years. 4. That is a lot of roster spots.
Yeah, but to get people in the seat, I think they're going to want people from Zacatepec. They're going to want Fabian. They're going to want.
They need both, dude. They need both. They need both. They need the name, and they need the glue guys. But see, that's my point. That's my point, Chiquis, is that how many young players in MLS have become stars? Quite a few.
Who
and imagine being the Atlanta team, or like
players that came out of MLS that have become stars. Is that what your question was?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Dempsey, Guzan, Bornstein,
Donovan.
Okay, U.S. players.
They're U.S. players.
They have no choice but to come out of there.
Lots of Central America now has their players playing in MLS. Where, I mean,
Jamaica beat Mexico with a B team of guys that mostly play in MLS.
Yeah, and the ones that didn't play in their league, which is semi-pro at best.
My point is that when you have players from Mexico coming back from Europe, MLS.
That's who we're talking about.
You talked about the whole thing. You've talked about the youth and the older players. When they come back from Europe to go to choose MLS over Mexico, that's for some type of reason, for comfort, economy, whatever. And and secondary, or might be primary, is to play soccer. So that's
but yes, there are players that do that.
Do you really think they're playing in Mexico after they've been playing for as long as they have is really going to make them or keep their level at a higher level? I'm not so sure. I mean, again, if we're going to play using examples of actual scenarios where that's happened, Rafa's probably the only example where his level of play got better when he went back to Mexico.
But the only reason that was on Rafa though.
Yeah, because when he went to León, he wasn't his first season at León was pretty bad.
And as far as the evidence goes, as far as them sucking it up as being older players going to the MLS as opposed to going to Mexico, there's a lot of reasons. I mean, and money is not all of it. I believe Jonathan was being offered more money to go play at America than what Galaxy's offering, than what Galaxy offered. So it's not just money. There's other, and to your point, I guess you want it to be first football and everything else, but I think with the kind of experience that these guys have had with the Mexican media, I don't blame them.
That's weak. That's weak right there. That's part of it. I'm not talking just about that. I'm talking about living conditions. Would you rather live in Mexico City or would you rather live in Los Angeles?
Dude, trust me when I tell you that they can live just as good, if not better, in Mexico City than they would in Los Angeles.
I know,
so
but
that really has nothing to do with it.
The perception that they have, Gio hasn't lived in Mexico for too long. The perception that they have is LA, bright lights, I'm going to go there instead of Mexico City.
Well, actually, he grew up. I mean, he grew up.
They both grew up in Barcelona.
Yeah, that was
no, but I mean, he was 12. He lived pretty much all his life in Mexico.
Lived in Monterrey.
My point is a small mental issue of being pampered, of having the nice things in life,
Why shouldn't you have them if you work hard for it?
I'm not saying you shouldn't, but
So
I'm
you
saying
should lead a Spartan existence.
And
Yeah,
how long? And how long is long enough, Beto? I mean, these guys have been in there since they were teens in Europe. At what point is it acceptable for them to make a selfish
To make a
decision
decision based for them and only
Yeah.
them.
they can do that. I'm saying they're free to do whatever they want, but I'm just saying that there's a
But how does that? I know, and I'm asking when does it become not a mental weakness issue to actually go there? Do they have to be literally limping on one leg and 50 years old? At that point, it's like, is it okay to try to cash in a little bit extra?
they had to retire by then.
And this notion that these players can that the MLS is just sitting there, maybe not. I mean, you're one injury away from it all ending, so nothing's guaranteed. I don't know why people keep insisting that he could have gone years later. I'm like, well, maybe.
Well, they're professional soccer players. They could retire right now. Like Gio Bella, they could retire right now and be pretty comfortable.
No, I don't know, man. Because if you have a certain quality of life, it's more expensive.
Just by naming themselves. They could go to Rafa and have their own cologne and do their business and stuff like that.
I don't know, man. Look at Rafa had to dip into other pockets.
We can't mention him anymore, dude.
Prostitution, loan sharking, numbers. The kid liked the wet his bleak and everything.
No. I mean, we see it that way, but it's not always the case because especially if you see the older Mexican players, a lot of them aren't living luxurious lives.
Did you guys not see Rudo y Cursi and how those guys ended up? Did John not see that?
Yeah, and that was
real life example.
Spot on.
Salvador Cabañas. I mean, that's a real life example of. It's not.
He works at a bakery.
Take this scenario for example.
Not knocking panaderos, but.
Yeah, it's a drop down.
As a Chivas fan, you should be Russell though. Look, Carlos Vela could return to Chivas, bring them like a couple more championships, retire, from Chivas.
Not Russell, Chiquis. We don't have that culture in Mexico, man.
A huge legacy.
We don't have that love for the teams.
No
you
identity for Chivas.
Look, you see it in Argentina where it's like Tevez turned down multi-million-dollar offers to go to a Boca. I mean, the players are just more connected to the clubs. That's just, you don't see it in Mexico. You had Massa return and he went to America, You had Hugo return, he went to America. So it's just not in our soccer culture, man. I would love it. I would love it.
Exactly.
I would like it if Chicharo and Vela and some of these other guys retired.
Chicharo, I do think will one day will end his career at Chivas.
After he plays, he'll be 35.
Exactly. Yeah, he'll be in his 30s, but he will end his career.
And why is that?
He will end his career.
The model guy.
Because Chicharo is a pro. Chicharo is a
model professional.
So there you go. He's pro. So why aren't these other guys? They're not pro.
Because they're not world class professionals. You're exactly right. They are not world class pros. But you know what? That doesn't just happen in Mexico. That happens all over the world. That happens all. Where did Xavi end his career at Barcelona? No, he's playing in Qatar.
I go on Instagram.
Why aren't people mad at Xavi for going to play?
Yeah, he could have stayed, but a lot of teams would have come after him. Qatar gave him a truckload of cash. He in a shovel.
Exactly.
It's like. You know what, Chiquis? There's an interview with the Los Santos and with Jonah and them, and I think you could find it. It was today. I think I posted up today for Nación ESPN.
They did a blitz because they were on. They did Univision. They did Televisa.
And they talked about why they came to MLS, and I only heard like a bit. I didn't get to hear it because I was driving home. It was early in the morning, but it was something about they offered them better projects. So I guess I'm thinking this is probably extra cancha, type of stuff, other type of deals, commercial or other type of business ventures. So you have to understand that when they're just looking for,
they're looking for their brand.
It's popular.
Yeah, and also for when they retire to have other avenues for money.
It's pop culture's fault. It's I go on Instagram and I see them in the car dancing, Gio and Jonah, dancing and singing to some like hip hop.
Sounds like you're hating chickies.
Yeah, exactly. You are player hating right now.
Getting disgusted with these dudes, man.
You are player. You know how to solve that, chickies? Stop following it on Instagram. Then you don't have to worry about it.
What are those dudes that don't have technology that they ride a carriage? And
the steampunk guys?
No, the other dudes. They live like
there's more dudes.
The bearded guys.
I am.
Yeah, the bearded guys with the black caps and.
I thought that was steampunk. I need to catch up on my terms.
No, not steampunk. They're the religious dudes, man.
The Mormons.
The Amish.
Amish. Amish.
Oh,
that's what chickies is sounding like. Like, why are they riding a car? And
you better watch out. They're the English.
They're not growing their beards.
They don't
unless it's difficult, then it's not.
It's not
worthy. Yeah.
They're singing in
sugar
English.
in their.
They're singing in English like that one.
Flakes.
Like English isn't their language. They're like all trying to sing in English and.
Do you have the good toilet paper? Come on, chickies.
chickies. I know that you have this very strong moral code when it comes to your athletes, but the ones that we're talking about, as far as having opportunities in MLS are the glue guys. I mean, there are plenty of roster spots available, and if fans want to see Mexico compete at the level where they think Mexico deserves to compete, the only way that's going to happen is if there are more Mexicans playing, and to me, there's no reason at all why, given the opportunity, why a young Mexican player, if he doesn't have an opportunity in his league, to take that chance and play in MLS. And again, there's going to be so many more teams that are coming in that to me it's just a great opportunity for the player. And if he wants to get noticed in Liga MX, he will. If he's having believe me, if there's a young Mexican player that's having a good season in Liga MX or in MLS, he will get noticed. And if there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, then it would be good. It would obviously be good for the player, but it would be good for Mexican soccer in general. And how badass would it be to have your local MLS team, have 4 or 5 Mexicans, that are the heart and soul of your team? How cool would that be for a fan?
Pretty.
Well, for the Mexico fan, it would definitely make it easier to
watch the
league.
What is Joel gonna do when Chicharo and Carlos Vela and some other, the 2 or 3, and then they're playing, the inaugural MLS Liga MX Cup.
He's licking his chops. He's thinking he's gonna be the one guy that develops that cool relationship with them.
And they're in the final, and they're playing Chivas, and said, you know what, we can't play this at the new LA Coliseum. There's such a huge demand. We're going to play this bad boy in the Rose Bowl because we know we're going to sell out 90-something thousand people, 90-something thousand seats.
Or at the Coli, because
Coliseum could host.
You would have to have it at the Coli.
That's true because it's
an LA team.
They share a parking lot.
Yeah, it would be their backyard.
Right.
No, I'm Chivas, but I mean, just to have that type of game, that's pretty epic,
Wouldn't that be great?
We don't get to enjoy that stuff, and we don't see it. We're content with just watching it on TV and seeing Champions League. But that's, I go back to the whole culture of it. We don't value what we have.
I firmly believe that if they had that kind of competition between the two leagues, like a big one-off like that in 10 years' time it would be at least. It would not. I would say worldwide would be as big as, but as far as like ratings and stuff, I think would be very competitive with Champions League games.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather watch that. I like watching Mexican players and to be able to see them, just down the street from where I live,
And even
that's perfect for me.
Even from like a bragging rights perspective, if you're going to be that like hardcore Mexico fan who like kind of just wants to see Mexico top anything U.S. at any given moment, then you figure that'd be another way to kind of like mock your rivals. Is like, look, man, your team's good, but because it's filled with Mexicans, like that's the kind of banter that you can build on.
But the other side of that sword, Dan, is your national team's good because those guys play in MLS.
So, sort of like how we get from the Argentines, right?
As long as they're winning, though, I think it kind of
Right. At that point, you're like, who
doesn't really
cares,
matter.
dude?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you have the naturalizados that will end up in their national team.
I mean, I look at a team like
happening
FC
right
Dallas. FC Dallas has a really good, a terrific youth system, and a handful of the players that have come out of that youth system have been Mexican American players, from Dallas, and then they've had some other guys as well, but not that many MLS teams have the setup that FC Dallas has. So there's going to be opportunities, and then again, as a fan, as Joel said, if MLS is really serious about growing their fan base here, to me it's almost a no-brainer. I mean, yes, it's nice to get the Chiquitos and the Carlos Velas and the Giovannis and the Jonas, and that's that will, I do believe that Carlos Vela was LAFC's second choice. I don't think there's any question in that. But there's gonna be some opportunity. And as a fan, and as Joel said, how cool would it be to go see my MLS team that is that has 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever number it is of guys that that went through Cruz Azul system or whatever it is. And are doing well. I mean, those guys would absolutely have an opportunity to if they want to go back to Mexico, or if they want to go elsewhere, if they want to stay here. I mean, they could certainly make that DP money too if they start playing well. So,
I'm sure this is probably pissing off like every one of our listeners because.
Well, they need to open their eyes a little bit as far as
because quite frankly, I mean, I've been really surprised by just the one-sidedness of the reaction of especially Jonathan going. I think they kind of like, and I think Velas too. I think those two kind of really hurt the fan base.
You know what? That it pisses them off. It says one thing about how they see Mexico.
Well, I think it's all a sense of them. It comes down to insecurity.
No, I know, but I'm gonna tell you this. And they might not want to admit it, but they don't see the Mexican league or Mexican talent being able to produce more players of that quality. So the very few that come out, they want them to be in Europe. But my belief is that we can produce way more of that quality. We're just not doing it because there's not that many opportunities.
Exactly. They need more opportunity, and they're not going to get it in Liga MX.
There will be more Velas. There will be more Chicharos. I do feel that. I mean, we've been seeing it. All of us have been watching soccer. We've seen all these players that come out, and how many have been just as good, if not better. They keep coming out.
Well, I can come and think about 3 players that are probably. I mean, maybe not as much as Giovanni, because I think what he did for the national team can't be forgotten. But he had some really awesome moments. But I mean. Tecatito, are you going to tell me he's any less than those 2 players, by and large? I mean, I know when those 2 guys first came up on the scene for that U17, I think part of us was already kind of scared that we're never going to see anything these players. And I think that's why there's so much pressure on these guys because, like, man, these guys were in Barca's. They were with Barca. They were with Arsenal. The hopes were just way, way, way too high for these players and this generation in general. But I think there's always going to be players that are come up. I mean, Tecatito, Raúl, all these guys weren't expected, didn't come with a whole lot of fanfare until they actually blew up.
Who do you think was more upset with Tecatito not playing the Confed Cup, Tecatito or Porto?
I would say Porto, because I think their thing is to sell them.
Absolutely.
If you could see Tecatito do a number to Germany,
where would he be playing right now, Joel? If he would have
probably La Liga, most likely some mid-table La Liga team.
Oh, I think he would have gone a little higher than that.
Valencia or where?
Barcelona. I think he'd be in Barcelona right now.
You're thinking? Wow.
Absolutely.
Well,
they're in crisis mode, dude.
Yeah, man. It wouldn't shock me if they made the move for him now. Seriously.
So why does
I think they're saving all their shekels because Messi has not signed with them. So I
He's
think
not going to sign with them. They're not going to re-sign him.
he's going to leave, man?
Yeah, they're going to sell him for 155 million or whatever it is to Chelsea. You watch.
Wait, why not
or
to
Man City?
Man City, because that's where his people are.
Or Pumas.
Pumas.
No, it would be either Chelsea or Man City. He will go to the EPL.
Or Paris Saint Germain.
They're the only ones that have the wall.
Qatar,
somewhere that can spend stupid money.
That Qatar oil money, man. Is Qatar owns PSG. That's where all that money's coming from.
Yep, they're trying to buy a Champions League. I'm serious.
They're gonna own everything. We're gonna have to, or at least European. They're gonna own European football soon.
Qatar.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna have a big say on what happens.
Well, it's not just them. There's a lot of American money there. There's a lot of Russian money there. There's, it's if you're, a guy that has that kind of money, would you want to buy a team that has national appeal somewhere or worldwide appeal, or can make a team have worldwide appeal? It's a good bet.
So, Clubs World Cup in Qatar soon.
Club World Cup in Cancun. It needs to happen. Who do we need to call to make that happen?
But Qatar in December? That doesn't sound too bad.
That's when they're going to have the World Cup, is in December, which I think is kind of cool.
I don't know how are they going to do? Had they figured out what they're going to do with the leagues?
I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to do what Mexico does. They're going to have an apertura and a clausura. Well, not just Mexico, but South America have an apertura and a clausura. They're going to have 2 leagues. That's what's going to happen.
It just seems like logistically, it's going to be weird what they're going to do with all the calendars, especially like in Europe and all that.
Well, they don't have that many problems because they can just start it whenever, maybe even start it earlier, like in mid-July, and say if your midway point or whatever it is can't happen after November 20th or whatever it is, and then you get the 3 weeks off, and I'll tell you what's going to happen. I think it's going to be a huge success as far as the calendar. I think the European clubs going, hey, you know what? This isn't so bad.
Uninspiring location, I have to say.
Well, it is. It's. I do think that it is the World Cup, and the World Cup should be played around the world. But I do think that there were countries in that region that I think that were historically and traditionally a little bit more deserving than Qatar. I mean, if it's going to be played in that part of the world, I think Saudi Arabia would have been a good choice because of the Confederations Cup was born there, and they've had limited success in the World Cup. They've made World Cups at least. I mean, they actually went to one of the first Asian teams to ever make it to I think they were the first Asian team to ever make it to the knockouts, if I'm not mistaken. Saudi Arabia was in 1994, whom I saw at the Cotton Bowl in Sweden.
I'm just opposed to having the World Cup in a dry location. Not that I'm going to be there, but
well, you don't have to worry about any rainouts. I mean, when Mexico played Cameroon and Brazil, were you not a little panicked that it was pouring rain?
I'm panicked watching that team play. Doesn't matter.
Well, that's true. But didn't it add to your anxiety? No, geez, man, it's just pouring. I mean, it was pouring. It poured rain that whole game. It just did not stop.
So there is that, I guess.
Yeah. It was definitely.
They should. It's too bad that it's not being held in the summer because they could easily train in Torreon for like 3 weeks, man, and just go in there and just sprint the entire World
Light
Cup.
it up.
Oh yeah.
I do remember because of the heat. I think South Korea played Germany here in Texas. They were at the Cotton Bowl, And Germany in the first half goes up 3-0, as you would have expected them to. But they just withered and died in the second half, and the Koreans came back and scored 2 goals and probably should have won the game because the Germans just had nothing left in the tank. I mean, the game started like at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. I mean, it was criminal to play when they were playing at the Cotton Bowl. It was rough. And the South Koreans, man, they were in shape and they ran the whole game, and they just had the Germans on the ropes. And
that you bring up a good point though. If it was being held in the summer where the temperatures were going to be more extreme, that does put the European teams at a disadvantage.
At a huge disadvantage.
Because they're just not used to it.
Which is why that water break in the Holland game was such a, just really sucked for Mexico.
Well, I'm a Santos fan, so I'm adamantly opposed to that freaking water break because it only hurts my team.
Right. I actually had a chance.
I've been watching those the Twitter videos, man. Watching them doing running the sprinting and the preseason stuff all on sand dunes, in the middle of the desert. I mean that's what they're training for. But then you put them in the competition, it's like, I know you got to prevent people from dropping dead. I get it, but still, it does actually remove a huge home field advantage.
It does.
I mean, imagine if they were sucking air in Bolivia, and they're just like, all right, guys, well, just 5-minute breaks and let's hook everybody up with some oxygen.
Right. No, that is a very good point.
Masks
I mean, that's why they always had the little bolsitas of water that they could.
And then you have something on the flip side where you get the U.S. that they stick they play Costa Rica on an igloo, and that's okay.
Oh, right, when it was snowing.
Yeah. Where you
I'm not going to disagree with you.
I have some grievances, I'll admit, when it comes to this kind of thing, because I do think that if it's going to be a home field advantage, then let it be a home field advantage. If the players are sucking air, then all right, well then suck some air, dude, before you keep running again. I mean, I at least I don't recall there being that many issues with heat stroke, but maybe I'm wrong. I think they're just taking more precautions now to be on the safe side, which I guess I could appreciate on some level. But
well, I'll tell you, I've produced the last 2
week
Dynamo home game broadcasts, and I mean, as a producer, I have to work around that because there's going to be a longer delay. But for a player, it's like over 100 degrees. I mean, the weird thing is that they do it at the 35th minute. I mean, I'm thinking, man, at that point, why bother? If you're going to do it between the 20th and 25th minute, and you don't have to be there for 3 minutes. Just do it for a minute. Everyone go drink some water. Okay, we're done. All right, just go back. I mean, it didn't have to be a 3-minute break. That's the part that I don't get. I mean, I'm okay with the water break, but don't make it like a 4 or 5 minute spectacle. Just make it, 1 minute. Drink some water and you're done. All right, back at it.
We're weak nowadays. I think the saying was that millennial grown-up men can't even lift up their luggage to put in the overhead compartment.
Stop reading.
Reading what?
Trash.
Certain kinds of Twitter feeds. Stop.
It's just
I'm
trash.
not gonna out you. I'm gonna be nice, Beto. I'm not gonna say who you're quoting.
I would love for that person to say that to my nephew, who's a Marine.
Well, there are exceptions, but in general,
in general, it's a false statement.
Well, you admitted it.
I
don't remember before that. We would play during the day. Pumas, Santos would play during the day.
No, I know, but I'm saying that statement is way hyperbolic.
Santos has had water break.
I'm in terrible shape. I'm half falling apart, and I would manage to.
Santos has had water breaks longer than anybody. They were the first place that I ever saw it was Santos.
I think they are the first ones to do it.
Okay, we can go back to the truth of when I was a kid. I would go to school. I would walk to go to school uphill both ways. That's a saying that's been happening for a long time, and it's probably true. So
I don't think it's got anything to do with millennials. It's got to do with lawsuits and people dying. Where it's like, all right, I know that everybody likes it a certain way, but we just can't risk people dying anymore, and we're going to try to reduce the risk of that. That's all this is. I mean, it's got nothing to do with players being less tough. I mean,
I didn't know people died previous though. I thought you said you didn't know if
I don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't know of anything, but that's clearly what the issue is, because there
sometimes
have been
it's
a lot
actually
of deaths.
better to be preventative than reactive.
In American football, there was a lot of there was a number of around the time that this came about. It was just a lot of kids there was reports or players, professionals just dropping dead all of a sudden, not just in soccer specifically, but in other sports. And I think the decision was made that the above all else, they need to make sure that the players are protected.
So we should have the breaks then.
Well, no, they're gonna. It's not about
have the break. They're gonna have the breaks. Just don't make them 3 minutes long. Make them, a
I
minute.
guess I'm
90
just.
seconds tops.
I'm not saying I'm in favor or against them, but my point is, I guess countering your argument as far as saying these players are soft is not they're soft. I mean, what are they supposed to do? Is refuse the break? No, keep going. I don't need a break.
People ask if why don't they have the break at Pumas? They play in the middle of the day, but I mean it's this time of year in Mexico. I mean if it's 70 degrees at noon in Mexico City, I would be shocked. I mean it is very cool this time of year in Mexico, so it's never a problem in Mexico City. One time years ago, about 5-6 years ago, they did them for every game, like in the first round of the Liga. Y'all remember that? Liga MX.
I don't remember that one.
They did it. Remember they did it at Cruz Azul. They did it at other places. They're like, well, it was. They were basically selling ad time is what they were doing. They wanted to run some commercial.
Well, my last comment on this would be the nowadays we have a lot of technology. We have air conditioning. We have a lot of comforts that have been developed and improved, whereas before they didn't. And maybe before, without all these comforts and pamperedness, a lot of people were a little bit more tougher than they are now. Just an observation.
I will say, I'm pretty sure that
spoken like every middle-aged man.
Our experiences playing sports, I'm pretty sure is going to be much different than the kids that are growing up nowadays. Because I distinctly remember even in youth sports being denied water. Nope. It's like you haven't worked hard enough to earn water yet. You need to run harder. And they would just make you do more sprints to earn that water. And like now I think that'd be like unheard of. That'd be considered probably abuse. It's different times, Beto.
Yeah. You'd have Sandra Bullock come out on the field and tell the coach off and stuff.
She used to do that when I was playing in high school all the time. So, yeah. All right, gentlemen, we do have just a little time left, so we should probably wrap it up with some bad news. Marco Fabian, who had a terrific season last year in the Bundesliga and had a really good Confed Cup, and frankly should have started the game against Germany instead of Giovanni. Not that Giovanni played badly, but he was a position that he'd been playing all season, and obviously knew the players and was comfortable playing against them, and as evidenced by when he finally did come in, being easily Mexico's best player on the pitch. Well, he had some back surgery, and I've read conflicting reports, and maybe you guys can clarify, but I've read that he's out for the year, or is he just out to the end of this calendar year?
This calendar year.
Okay, so he's
that's what I heard.
So he's pretty much toast.
January
toast
he should be
January.
back.
All right, so he's toast.
He's gonna miss
January.
half the season. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean,
bad news. He was really starting to the coaches and players and fans just love him there in Frankfurt. Just a really unfortunate turn of events for him. So hopefully he will he'll be able to turn that around. Of course, and this week was also the 5-year anniversary of Mexico's gold medal win against Brazil in London, where they won 2-1, where Marquito was one of Mexico's best players in that, and not just in that tournament, but in the lead up to it, where he had a terrific Toulon tournament, etc. So hopefully Marquito will be.
I remember that game fondly. As I woke up, I set my alarm right at the start of the game, So when I turn on the TV, Mexico's already up 1-0. And I just kept like rubbing my eyes and like disbelief. I'm like, what the hell? What's going on here? How are they winning already?
Yeah, it was an early game, and I went downstairs. I think kind of like you did. I went downstairs with just a few minutes before the game started, and then they scored the goal. And usually it's in a game like that when Mexico scores, I tend to celebrate very loudly and demonstratively and passionately. I basically running around the house like Ruprecht saying Oklahoma, 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 and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. But I didn't say anything. I took it very calmly. And my wife comes down, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, and she sees the score. She goes, I didn't hear you celebrate. I didn't know that they were winning 1-0, because she's so used to me acting like an idiot when that happens. So, have you guys ever been caught looking like an idiot celebrating a goal? Have you guys ever been caught looking like an idiot celebrating a big goal?
Yeah, my wife laughs at me every time. And then it's like, shh, because you don't want to wake up a baby.
Right.
So that's how I watch games nowadays. But yeah, I mean, it's when you're especially with Mexico, I don't think I root harder or celebrate harder than watching a Mexico goal, especially against top competition.
Joel, have you ever had a I didn't realize that I wasn't alone moment celebrating a goal? We may have lost Joel.
Hello? No, I had my microphone off.
Oh.
So I was talking for a while, wondering why no one replied. No, not that I could recall.
Yeah, are you a stoic celebrator? Do you just like nod your head and maybe rub your whiskers a little bit?
I'm pretty stoic when it comes to celebrating.
Yeah.
Just like lift.
Really, not even the big the big Chivas goals in the final. You didn't.
No, you know what? I celebrated more the previous campeonato against Toluca. Just because it had been Toluca who had been like, they would always beat Chivas. So, it seemed like a more daunting task.
When Chivas won the last one, you didn't go over to your Americanistas buddy's house and just just to rub
I should have just taken out the speaker, taken out a speaker, put it in my balcony. But no.
Chiquis, have you had an embarrassing goal celebration moment?
No, I don't think so. I'm pretty reserved, but yeah, I don't recall acting a fool. The only time I did was when I was by myself, I think.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. When you think you're by yourself, but somebody catches you in mid, whatever. Like, don't see me like this.
Yeah, I guess I do stuff, but I don't care. My daughters make fun of me when I do stuff.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So, what?
You busted up your Achilles, right? Celebrating.
I have done that. That was when Rafa scored against Argentina in Dresden. I started jumping up and down to where it hurt for like 2 or 3 years after that. It was a little sore. I'm not gonna lie. So that was pretty embarrassing. But to me, my most embarrassing one was, I think it was Mexico Ireland, and it wasn't necessarily a goal. It was when Mexico was up 2-0 and Saguinho had a golden opportunity to make it 3-0. And he just missed the net. It was practically an open. I mean, he missed the chance, and I just let loose with like the longest, loudest, basically
Hijo de la chingada, no mames, güey.
But those were included, but there were a bunch of other words, and I had no idea that a couple of my roommates were at the dining room table. They were just watching me. I was completely oblivious to the fact that they were even there, and. Yeah, and then I asked them, "How long have you guys been there?" I said, "We've been here long enough to see what you've been," because that was right after Luis Garcia had scored, and of course I just went bananas doing that too. So I had a double whammy where they saw me act a fool, both positive and negative. So that was pretty embarrassing. But you know what? I didn't care. I was having a good time.
You know what, John? I come to think of it, I did have a rather embarrassing moment last year when I went to see Santos play Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
At the StubHub. My angle was off where I was sitting, and I celebrated with a lot of vigor a non-goal.
Oof. Oof.
Here we go,
A lot of vigor.
Here we go. Here we go.
I did get
Galaxy. Here we go.
Sorry, as you were saying.
I did get a bit of a razzing for that one
From your
the Galaxy
fellows,
fans.
from your fellow Angeles, your fellow Santistas.
Did you have an excuse though? Yeah, you have an impairment excuse.
No impairment. I just was sitting at an angle.
You saw the net shake, right?
The net shook. Yeah,
No,
the ball was on the other side.
I'm just saying, if you were drunk, you could say, "Hey, I'm not fully here."
Oh no, I wasn't.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, I had a beer, but no, I wasn't. I definitely wasn't drunk.
Yeah, I think we have a listener whose soundbite is this.
Hacer mi casa porque tengo casa de cartón. A mí
I think Ron is listening. He's on the chat.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, it was unfortunate for Ron. We I know that he probably thinks that we didn't even touch America, but we were very, very flowery in our praise of America. Even I think Joel even said that they should be considered co-favorites at this point. So
That guy just bothers me. That he
Ron,
No,
you shouldn't speak badly about people that aren't here.
he's listening though.
no, that's
So-
Cecilio guy, man. He looks like
Oh,
some actor that's on on those comedy movies.
How do we know that that's not wrong? The reality is that we don't.
Who?
Cecilio.
Cecilio.
it could be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That hair just irks me. Or maybe it's because he scored the goal against Pumas or whatever.
I'm gonna have to pull up a picture of him. So his face bothers you?
Well, no, he reminds me of an actor. Like, I don't know if it's an Adam Sandler movie, but it's one of
He
those
looks like
movies where
John. He looks like John Leguizamo. Is what it looks like.
it's this other guy that has the hair like really puffy like that, and then usually he's got a hairy chest type
I'm
of.
telling you. It's
Not
John Leguizamo.
John Leguizamo is like a little Latino galan type of guy.
Right. That's what he looks like.
It looks like a goofy, like his little afro he's got going on.
Well, but when John grows it out, that's what it looks like.
Oh yeah. One day I want to figure out what actor I'm talking
He
about.
is a really good player, by the way. I mean that was and he seems to have the whole Americanismo thing down. That was a good pickup for them for sure. Yeah,
Finally one.
instant. Yeah, he is on the
Ryan
right track.
Sandberg? Is that his name?
Let me check.
Ryan Sandberg?
Ryan Sandberg was a second baseman for the Cubs.
I'm sorry, not Ryan Sandberg. I think his last name is Sandberg. The guy
Andy
with the big
Sandberg.
nose, the trainer in the movie that you were just
Yeah,
playing.
Andy Sandberg,
Andy, okay.
the Lonely Island guy, the Dick in the Box guy. That guy.
Yes, Sandberg. Andy Sandberg.
Yeah.
Maybe that's who you're talking about, Cheekies.
Sandberg? Okay, Sandberg.
With an M.
Oh man, that's not him.
Okay, because he's got the puffy hair.
It's like this dude.
No, Cecilio is definitely he definitely has it going on for Club America. One of the reasons why they should certainly be to the detriment of all of us favorites in the league. Boys, do we have anything else, or should we go ahead and wrap it up?
I think that's it.
That's it. No más.
Yeah, like Osvaldo would say, no más.
That's that's right.
We
1-0
called it,
nos 1-0 nos vamos.
We called it Roberto Duran.
No más.
No más.
Manos de piedra. He
about
was
tough guy.
Panamanian.
Yeah.
That's who Mexico plays next. I'm not so sure that that's going to be a win for Osorio. Maybe that's what we should wrap it up with because that is coming up. So again, I mean, we're at the stage where what does he have to do to keep his job? Because I mean, to me, this is another audition. So does he have to win both games? Does he have to win Panama and then tie Costa Rica, or does he just have to qualify for the World Cup no matter how it happens?
I think he's going to qualify even if he doesn't score, even if they don't get any points. I mean, they're in. I don't see the point. That's why I think it just makes more sense to play.
Well,
scrubs
I know that they might be in,
or fringe players.
mathematically. But remember, in Mexico, style points, especially now, and especially against who they're playing against, count. So
But I think that's a smart move by Osorio, that if he doesn't call up the Europeans,
it's too bad Chivas is playing so badly, because if they were actually playing well and having a good go of it, I'd say that's going to be my base, or four guys from them.
it would still be a good idea, even if they're not playing the greatest. They're still going to have that familiarity.
Right.
I don't think it would be a terrible idea to use the base of any team, really, that could fill up the spots.
Right, but that's the problem with Mexico, is that they don't really have a base like that, and all their players are European, and as y'all pointed out earlier in the show, they haven't really had the best of seasons, and they're just getting going. So
I just don't see that this qualifier is being
crucial.
It's only because of the terrible summer. Had it been a decent summer, these games would be glorified friendlies, which I think they kind of still are. There's just not a whole lot left in it for Mexico. I mean, they're gonna qualify. Might as well just try out some players that a couple more players that you think might be able to fill up the roster.
I don't think he has that with Osorio. We've been a bit negative. I said I don't think he has that what I lost for words here.
Luxury?
Yes, exactly. He has that luxury to do that. I think he's on a thin line, and they're just waiting for any excuse to boot him. The media's just, the daggers are out. They've already been jiving at him. And he could win, but if the team looks bad, and let's not forget they had that contingency plan not so long ago, that meeting with rules that Osorio must now abide by, who he might not even pay attention to,
Yeah, but that was every report that I heard was that meeting was there was that's nice that you have this plan, but this is what's really going to happen, and they put a stop to that very quickly. But I do agree with you, Jorge, that regardless of whether or not they have contingency in this and that, I do think that style points do mean something here, and I do think that he is under a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, they did it to Bora, man.
Because I mean, if he loses, say if he loses both these games and they still haven't qualified, and they go up 9-10, and then they play they would play Trinidad, and then Honduras. If they have to play that Honduras game with any kind of reason where they have to get a point to qualify, then I think he's in major trouble. So I do think that these games do have they do hold a little bit, and we'll see Tecatito. I think that I think Giovanni got injured, but I do know that they're received a letter about him. So, but Dan, I think that to your point, it seems like he wants to get players that have been playing a while, and didn't have that extended break because of the Confed Cup. So we might see because of that, we might see more local players than Europeans. So we'll see what happens.
I'm hoping I see some of these players that were ultimately left off the list.
Right. I mean, I want to see what Pizarro can do with a player like Tecatito. I think that they can play well off each other. Obviously they need a true holding. It boggles the mind to me, for a lot of folks that are, I'll just say firmly in the Osorio camp, to say, well, you just have to give him time, this and that, and I get that. But for him to play a system where he doesn't want to have a true defensive midfielder, and he leaves his center backs to where they look like they're, a minnow team practically, with how badly they're exposed with where they play. How anybody thinks that is a worthwhile system to continue to try and develop, and it just, to me, if that's your Achilles heel, to me, you need to just scrap it all together. It boggles the mind that people don't see that. But anyway, I digress. Well, we should probably wrap it up then here on the CantinaMX podcast. Dan, I think this is one of our better shows. It was very enjoyable. Thank you very much.
Fun as always.
Best show ever.
Ever.
Joel, thank you very much for joining us. We'll have to keep us up to date on the Chivas Palace intrigue.
Yeah, on the Chivas novela. Yes, John, always a pleasure.
Thank you very much. And Chiquis bringing the heat today. You get very passionate, Chiquis. You're very much appreciated.
Gotta bring a little bit of heavy breathing since Ron was not here.
That is true. We missed out on the. I often wonder what exactly is Ron watching when he's on the show.
I picture him holding up a microphone with both hands.
You think so? You think he's like, because there's some announcers that wear the
Like
headsets,
Scotty.
and there's some that hold the microphone when they call the game. So maybe Ron is one of those guys that.
I'm picturing boxers and a greasy wife beater,
Laying on the bed.
yeah.
covered in cheese whiz. No, that's not very nice. We wouldn't say that to our good friend Ron. But no, we do appreciate everyone joining us, and appreciate you guys that are watching, listen to us live here on YouTube, and of course you can listen to this and all the previous editions of the CantinaMX podcast from the podcast center on iTunes, and as well newly available to y'all on Google Play, which I thought was what we were in the past, but that wasn't the case. But now it is official. We are on Google Play. So thank you guys very much. Thanks everyone. We'll be with you again next week. My name is John Jagu, and we will talk to you again next week. Thank you.